What is going on, Fleet Connect family? Welcome to Legacy Decoded. This is a show where we unpack the future we're leaving behind and decoding what it takes to actually build with real impact today. I'm Kalei Poteet, and around here we don't just chase hacks, we design systems, stories, and strategies that live longer than the headlines, right? Today I'm joined by Merle Gerhardt, someone who's been making moves in the trucking space and has a front row seat to the shifts shaping how we work, build, and scale. Merle, I'm glad to have you on. Where are you calling in from today?
Hey, I'm in my office here in Albany, Georgia, South Georgia. No major city, but we're down here in the South and close to Florida, Alabama, and a bunch of other places.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I'd love to start, Merle. For people who have never heard of you, tell us a little bit about your role in the company and how you got started in the transportation industry.
Okay, how much time we got?
We got time.
Well,
Let's do it.
got started about 10 years ago. I'd been in the military. This is how I love recruiting and retention as a whole. During my time in the military, out of the 24 years, I spent the last 13, 14 years in the recruiting and retention department, recruiting young American citizens to come join our country and serve our country in the Army. And when I retired, landed some gigs doing some contract work for different defense agencies and government contractors. And I'm like, this isn't my thing. I want to get back into the people business instead of behind the desk business and not having that engagement. So kind of applied around in a number of different places, a lot of different trucking companies, anything that had to do with recruiting. And trucking just kind of fell in my lap because I had an opportunity with a gentleman. I applied on ZipRecruiter way back in the day, and he had an independent recruiting agency. Had a conversation with him. And I was like, oh, I could do this. This is right up my alley. So fast forward, we started American Trucking Group about 10 years ago. It was just a two-person operation. And then we kind of grew that into about 12, 13 recruiters. Some are in-house and some are remote. And then kind of shifted as we saw after the COVID timeframe. Everybody was hiring everybody, so recruiting was just booming. And then we noticed as the market started shifting, and after COVID and all these trucking companies entered the market, that the keeping a driver was even harder. So we started a company called Hello Retention, as you see here on the sign in the background, was how do we pivot and shift and help companies keep their talent pool. A lot of industry standards saying that to bring on a driver, all costs included could be anywhere depending on the operation and size, can be from anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 per driver. So when you think about a major player in the market, they're doing transportation, running reports, clearinghouse, verifications of employment, all sorts of things to bring this driver in. Then they get them into the orientation, and then they have to put them up in hotels. They feed them, all this sort of stuff. All the people that are involved with the processing team, in-house recruiters, and that cost can be very staggering.
Mm.
Industry average is probably about 89 to 120% turnover, depending on which company you're speaking to. Well, that's a burn rate that's absolutely insane. But so, how do you fix that? So one of our premier clients, Mesilla Valley, we went in and had a deep conversation with them and figured out what they wanted. And with them, we helped reduce their turnover rate by simply connecting with the drivers,
Mm.
having these honest conversations right after orientation. We speak to them every single week. We do a lot of interaction. We do surveys. We find out what their problems, pain points, and issues are, and we take it back to the company. By doing that, it helped them reduce their turnover rate significantly, saving them millions of dollars. So when you look at a 500 truck company and let's say they're costing them, $8,000 to a driver to bring on the conservative side, and they have 111% turnover, that is a huge marketing burn. And if you could just save 10% of those drivers, you've reduced that marketing expense and that turnover, and then you go to 20 and 30, and ideally you want to be less than 50% turnover, and you're not losing that talent pool. You're keeping them. Your fleet's getting some seniority on them, because in today's market, drivers will go somewhere for an extra cent per mile. And the fun fact of it is, they're promised that cent per mile, but how many miles are you really getting? So to kind of give you an analogy of it is, if I'm getting 3,000 miles a week at 50 cent per mile, you do the math, they're getting those miles, but they go
Mm.
somewhere else for 52 cents per mile or 55 cents per mile, and they're lucky to get 1,800 miles. Well, when you do the math, the driver should have stayed at the first employer and not jump ship for an extra cent per mile or a small bonus. I've never been a fan of bonuses, but driver companies use them to bring drivers in, but now you got to keep them. And that's where retention plays into this. And then the third piece of our business model is we help small fleets to find them and be competitive insurance quotes. We help them find insurance for their trucking companies, whether it's a one man, two man, or woman operation up to 50 or 100 trucks. We're out there trying to negotiate, figure out what's the best opportunity for them to keep their rates low. Because in this industry, there's a couple of factors that trucking companies look at when it comes to margins and profit. Trucks are expensive, tires are expensive, replacing drivers is expensive, and insurance is expensive. So you
Mm.
got to have everything in balance so companies can make that profit and keep those drivers happy and those wheels turning to be profitable. So we look at strategies on the insurance side of, all right, first of all, are your trucks full? No. All right. Well, let's help you get a driver in there. All right. Now let's look at your driver pool and what's the quality of driver? How many accidents had you had? How many DOT inspections had you had? And let's get that in line so we can be competitive for insurance because you're now the cream of the crop carrier, or do you have a bunch of drivers that's causing you a bunch of violations, which is causing your insurance rates to go up? So we kind of strategize and look at everything holistic from recruiting, retention, insurance to find that balance for that trucking company and keep them profitable and in business. Because this day and time, there's a lot of small operations going out because they're not set up with the right mindset and not set up safety and conscious wise to continue their operations unless they're going to willing to pay for those high costs.
I love how you guys take the time to engage with drivers, on an ongoing basis. And if you're watching live or recording, we'd love to know where you guys are tuning in from. Please drop any questions in the comment section. Now, I just wanted to say and just really pose a question. What if the biggest cost in trucking wasn't actual fuel or freight, but just people leaving, right? So if you're just tuning in today, we're decoding one of the most overlooked parts of this industry, which is driver retention. And yeah, so Mr. Merle, if I could ask as well, what first drew your attention to our attention to the retention problem, essentially?
I guess it's probably my military background. As a recruiter and retention person in the military, those two things were tied hand in hand. But when you look at corporate America or in the trucking industry, all right, you have a recruiting department bringing these people in the door. And
Mm,
then as soon as they get hired, who do they get passed off to? The HR department. Well, they're
mm,
two different people, two different things. They handle things differently. My recruiter promised this in the beginning, and now I'm onboarded and now I'm going to my fleet manager or whoever it is trying to get this problem fixed. Or they end up in the HR department and they don't know what the left hand said to the right hand. So if you keep it together and we're that synergy piece to where we're the middle person between the recruiter, we're the middle person between the payroll or HR department or whatever the situation is, we bring that conduit together and we're a one-stop shop for these drivers when they have an issue or concern or even a happy moment. They tell us about all their happy things that's going on too. It's not a complaint department by any means, but you can consider it that way to some degree. But they also tell us about their aha moments or their proud moments. Hey, I'm in Utah today, beautiful sunset, or I'm in California, or I'm in Georgia, whatever the case may be. But we're that middle person and we're not the direct employee of the company. I mean, you think about it if you've ever worked in any organization. I'm really upset with my boss, but I'm not going to tell my boss I'm not happy with the way he's treating me. Because
mm,
if you do that, I'm like, well, forget it. We'll just get somebody else to do it. But when they come to us and say, hey, I'm really upset with my boss or my supervisor or my coworker, we're understanding why they're upset. We're taking that information and we're presenting it back to the organization and to the right department so they can execute and make those changes or address the driver concerns. So it's a valid concern, but it's not coming across as I'm pointing at you and you're making me mad. We're kind of the middle negotiator, if you will. And
mm.
we also see trends too. We're talking to these drivers every week, and we start seeing trends, or loads are slow out of a certain area, or trucks are being held up in the shop out of a certain area. And come to find out, yeah, they had 3 mechanics sick. So the company needs to bring in some other mechanics from a different location. Let's get these trucks fixed. Let's get them up and running so these drivers can get back on the road making money. Because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, if the wheels aren't turning, they're not making any money. Sort of that middle mouthpiece for them.
Love that. And you spoke a little bit about trends. And trucking is always kind of changing. Regulations are changing, macroeconomics, political shifts. Are there any major shifts that you're seeing right now in trucking?
I think it's the driver pool. We've seen this probably for a while now. I would say probably last 6, 8, maybe 9 months now. But with the tariffs and economic things that are going on in the country and everything that's going, being on the recruiting side, we're seeing a lot of drivers come through that are looking for jobs, but they don't qualify for a number of reasons. They just got terminated for safety, had a rollover, whatever the case is. So that driver pool that's looking now is because they have no choice and they just lost the job. The good quality drivers that we want in our organization, we want working for us in our trucking company, those drivers aren't shifting right now. Those
Mhm.
drivers are staying put. They're like, hey, the economy's uncertain. Groceries are going up. Cost of things are going up. So they're saying, hey, I've got a good gig here. I better stay. I'm not wanting to make that shift quite yet. There's a lot of drivers we speak to that are company operators. They want to go owner op. This is probably not the best time to make that shift until the economy gets better, interest rates drop, things like that. So in the recruiting side, the driver pool is not the best of the pool because we're dealing with drivers that had unfortunate circumstances. They had an accident, they rear-ended somebody, they had a rollover, whatever the case may be. And in this professional driver market, every carrier wants the best of the best. So
Mhm.
finding that best of the best has become very challenging for us, especially with the people that are looking now. So when we're looking for the best of the best, I would say a tip or technique for the audience that are looking, go back and look at the people that applied to you a year ago or 2 years ago. Some of those drivers are the best of the best. And if you can offer them something competitive,
Mhm.
something that's worthwhile, and bring them to an organization that cares and they're
Mhm.
not just a driver number, you may gain that driver and fill that truck seat that you've had empty for a little while.
Hmm. That's interesting. Yeah, so I do believe that good drivers will, entertain really great offers for the most part. Do you notice that, and this might just be, well, I'm pretty sure you've seen it as well. A lot of companies have a lot of applicants coming in. Have you seen a lot of these applicants go untouched or uncontacted for the most part?
On our end, we shouldn't be not contacting or touching these people. We have to first find out why they're looking,
Hmm.
and then next see if they qualify for any of the carriers we represent. We represent a huge number of carriers at American Trucking Group, from the large mega carriers down to some of the smaller carriers or outfits. If you're letting those drivers sit stagnant, whatever method they apply, whether they apply through Facebook or if they're using 10th Street and they send you a 10th Street application. The 30 minutes after they apply, if you're not contacting them, the rate of them getting them on the phone reduces significantly. You need to be hitting them up as soon as they come in. If you get a 10th Street application and just popped up in your system, they're actually right there actively applying and looking for a job. What better time to catch them? They may be at a ship or waiting on a load and they're upset because they've been there for 3 hours and they're like, all right, I'm going to see what else is out there. Or they may be on their home time and they're just frustrated because their last check was just terrible because they didn't get the miles or whatever the case may be. So you got to hit them up very quickly. Tim Crawford over at 10th Street says these drivers are looking about every 4 months. Every 4 month cycle, they're kind of testing the waters and seeing what's out there. And that's true. We see drivers apply to us 3, 4, 5, 6 times within a time frame. But if what we don't have doesn't fit the widget for what they're looking for, then we're moving on. We're seeing a huge trend lately too of a lot of people wanting recent grads applying. They're going through these truck driving schools. They're thinking they're going to come out here and grab the perfect job. And I don't think the truck driving schools are educating these drivers to what the market really looks like.
Hmm.
I can't tell you how many conversations we've had with drivers that get their CDL and think they're going to find a local home daily job.
Right.
Kind of challenging for an inexperienced person. A company that's looking for if they have a local home daily job that's out there, they're looking to hire the best of the best with the most experience, not a rookie
Mhm.
coming out of school. They want that guy that's been over the road for a little bit and has that backing and parking and that type of experience.
Yeah, that was me when I about 5 years ago when I got my license. Yeah, I wanted to stay local, right? But I had to figure out that maybe I needed to kind of go over the road for a little bit and get some experience on my belt, kind of give myself a little bit more leverage, in that sense, right? So yeah, I don't think they told us initially, but I think we were just super excited to kind of be able to back the truck up for the most part.
Yep. I'd be excited too. I mean, that's a big piece of equipment. If you can back it up into that parking spot or that dock and not tear up anything, that's an accomplishment by itself. I mean, that's a huge piece of equipment. So,
I remember the first time I was in the ports in Houston, and my first time actually backing the trailer up in a very, very busy, congested, tight spot. Super proud of myself. That was super cool. Now that we're speaking about it, I'd love to know for executives or in the driver recruiting space or trucking companies specifically that are like considering AI intelligence right now. What are the top two or three questions they should be asking, but aren't?
well, AI has come a long way. We use it a lot in our industry, whether it's to stand out from a different competitor in an ad that we're placing. But I think there's a time and place to use AI, maybe researching your competitors, making sure you're in the ballpark of wages for drivers. So you mentioned Houston. If I'm based out of Houston, I'm going to use AI and do the search and scrub of, all right, what are my competitors offering? What's the home time? What's the pay? What's all the things that's going on out there? AI can gather all this kind of stuff up very quickly. When it comes to the recruiting side, I think there's a time and place for AI. You could probably use those certain questions that you want to ask just to cull through what your minimum requirements are. Keep in
Right.
mind, minimum is one standard, and you can always build off of that, but you can't take it away. But I think at the end of the day, you still need to have that human interaction because a driver is wanting to come and work for where they feel is home, comfortable, and they can relate to the person that sold them the bill of goods. Hey, you're going to come here and you're going to make this per week. We're going to get you home every Friday, or you're not going to get home every Friday. Are you okay being out 3 weeks or 4 weeks at a time? There was a small carrier we work with that would allow drivers to stay out 4 weeks at a time, and his philosophy was if he got out there and ran 4 weeks at a time, I'm gonna let that guy come home for 7 straight days, and that was a huge selling point for him. Most carriers is a week that you're off or out, you get a day off. So if I'm
Mhm.
out for 4 weeks, I only get 4 days at home. I'm getting my 34-hour resets on somewhere else. But these drivers loved it. I'm gonna run hard for this company for 4 weeks, and I'm gonna get to come home for 7 days. And they were okay with it because they made the revenue off the truck. The driver earned what they were supposed to. So I think recruiting wise, you still have to have that human factor, whether it's a recruiter or maybe it's a mom and pop company is one of the owners and that owner happens to be a driver. Set the expectations out there, but
Mhm.
you can use AI to do a lot of tasks and tools for you that helps you all around, knowing you're competitive as you're in the recruiting market or whatever the case may be.
I love that. I love that. And I know it's hard to kind of predict where AI is going. If there was a few things that I guess AI can do inside of trucking or recruiting, where do you think it would probably be best used for moving forward?
Maybe on the administrative side, when it keeps to keeping up with, driver expiration dates, things like that, or medical cards or, safety training, you can set up tools and AIs that can send out notifications. Those don't require the human touch. Hey, a driver gets a text notification. Hey, you're due for your DOT physical. Reminder 30 days. Whatever the benchmark that you want to get that driver back in. Your home time is coming at this time. You can use those triggers to use AI, but you also have to have that personal touch. That right here's the thing: is AI is cool, but what does a truck driver want the most when they're sitting behind the windshield running 660 miles, 65, 70 miles an hour, and they're doing six, 700, 1,000, 2,000 miles a week? It's just them, the windshield, and
Yeah,
all these cars around them. They are happy to talk to you on the phone. They don't want to
absolutely.
talk to AI.
100%, 100%. Yeah, I think admin and customer support are just things that take a lot of manual effort sometimes can definitely be a big boost with the AI for sure. We definitely don't want to, eliminate the human aspect of, businesses, just kind of amplifying how to either reduce time or just take some of those manual mundane tasks out of the equation. So retention isn't just about paychecks, right? Can you share an example where data kind of uncovered a hidden issue inside of a company?
Yeah, let's see. Oh shit, there's several of them. One of them was, drivers were coming in on their home time, and then trucks were supposed to be service and maintenance, and had a bunch of drivers get sick. Had like, or not drivers, but the mechanic department got sick, had the flu, and these drivers were like held up, so they had to pull in some other maintenance support from other locations so they can get these drivers back on the road. Another thing is weather. Drivers are seeing things out there. Hey, I'm in this area, traffic is absolutely backed up, or it could be weather related, storms, hurricanes, whatever the case may be. And we're getting that feedback, and we're hearing, hey, we're having connectivity issues for one reason or another. So we escalate that up to the appropriate department within the company, and then they realize, oh, no wonder the driver hadn't picked up this load, or no wonder the shipper, they've been without power, or whatever the case may be. So they can easily get the message across to the entire team, so everybody's aware. Hey, if you're heading to this area, know that you may get held up because they're out of power. And that's just coming from the driver. It's not on CNN or Fox. The driver knows first because they're on the ground. They're seeing it happen in real time. So they're passing that information up to us. We escalate it up, and then it goes across the fleet. Or they may say, hey, you know what? It's just not a safe place to be right now. We're going to go ahead and cancel those loads. Let's bring you back, and let's get you sent out to a different direction so you can get the miles in. So we're not going to put you in harm's way. So those are some of the aha moments that drivers tell us. We
Right.
listen, we hear, and we execute, and it puts them in a better situation. And that way, they don't have a bunch of drivers or other drivers stuck in the same location. For weather's probably the biggest thing I can use. Snows, hurricanes, just whatever, fires out west. Makes it a little more challenging for drivers to navigate, especially when traffic gets the way can be.
Absolutely. 6 to 12 months from now, where do you think companies that prioritize retention will be compared to those who don't?
If they prioritize retention, one, their checkbooks look a little better because they're not going through what I call the burn rate of replacing drivers. It puts them in a better situation of keeping those drivers, incentivizing those drivers. If a driver could give, and this is a thing for a driver, not just a company. I see it all the time. A driver will go here and spend a week there. Well, this is not what I thought it was. Well, I'm not sure what expectation you had or how it's created or presented to you, but if you give a company a shot, I mean, it's like dating. Um,
Mm.
you know, if you're dating a girl and you just met her, and you know real quick if it's going to work or not, but if you kind of have an interest in her or in any relationship, you kind of keep working at it, and you try to give it a month or two, see how things go. Same with the driver. You're in a new relationship with the company. Give them the 30, 60, 90 days, and you'll find that it's not as bad as I thought it was. Maybe your impression was not what you thought it should be because you came from an absolutely terrible company, and this one just doesn't seem to be doing what you want it to do. On the company side, with retention and keeping these drivers, their checkbooks will look a little healthier because they're not going through that burn rate. They can give drivers other opportunities or increase their cent per mile based on performance, or maybe they're hitting a mileage goal each week or each month. And they can afford to give them that extra few cents per mile because they've got a surplus in that recruiting fund, or it puts a company in a better situation. Hey, we've saved millions of dollars this year by keeping our fleet. Let's reward our drivers with the bonus, 30, 60, 90 or a year mark. And now they're able to put themselves in a position where they can go after new markets, new freight runs, because now they have the capacity to grow, add, more trucks to their fleet and expand their fleet versus struggling to keep their fleet afloat.
Hmm. I love that. So if you're running a fleet right now, I'd love for you to ask yourself, are you bleeding money through turnover you can't see? But here's the surprising part, right? Retention might save you more than your best broker relationship. And if you could solve one major industry challenge tomorrow, what would that be?
I tell you, retention is not sending out a survey
Mm,
in the mail. I mean, how many times you open up your email on your
mm,
phone and you just bought a product? Oh, rate my product. And then you get another one. Rate this, rate this, rate this, rate your stay at our hotel. You know how many
mm,
times people see that and they swipe left and hit delete, or
mm,
they just skip over it. Emailing or texting a driver or anybody a survey is absolutely useless. You're lucky. Let me put it in this perspective because this is a true scenario. Spoke to a 500 truck company. They were doing surveys as their retention program. Hey, we need a retention program. All right, let's do surveys. So they sent out these texts to 500 drivers. Well, first of all, why are you texting a driver when he's supposed to be not paying attention and he's supposed to be driving down the road? You got a no cell phone policy in your truck, or you're sending it out an email, and then the driver's like, all right, I just got done with my long 10-hour day, plus this, plus this, plus this, and now I need to shower, eat, refuel my truck. And you're sending out an email, and they look at it, oh, I'll just get to it later.
mm,
This 500 truck company sent out this email, and they got 8 to 12% combination email text results back. Well, if you round it to 10%, so you got 50 drivers to respond, and for a 500 truck company,
mm,
do you think those 50 drivers represent the entire pool of 500 drivers? And if you make a decision based off of 50 drivers, do
mm,
you think the other 450 will feel insulted because you didn't include them the proper way? Let's have
mm.
this conversation. Let's not send them a text or an email, especially if you don't want them touching their phones when they're driving. So there's a perfect real life true example of, yeah, I have a retention program, but is your retention program effective?
Mhm.
I tell you, with our retention program, if we cut your turnover down by 10%, you started saving money. And it's effective because we tell you what the good, bad, and ugly is. And now we'll help you, advise you of what you need to do. But at the end of the day, it's the company's decision on what they do with that data
Yeah.
and how they improve their welfare of their drivers and their organization.
I love that. I love that. I don't think a lot of people really think about retention. And you said a lot there. You know, a simple survey might be as far as a lot of companies actually think, right? Like maybe let's just do a survey, not a mass text or email. But again, you guys go way more further, you know, and I'd love to know, you know, when it comes to engaging 500 drivers, what's that process kind of look like?
It's
On the phone, picking the phone up.
pick the phone up. Pick the phone up. These guys have a dedicated number they can call.
Mm,
Most of them never call the 800 number. They talk with our retention rep and they'll just call them back or they save them in the phone. The first conversation, save me in your phone. I don't care what time it is. You know, if it's late, shoot me a text. If it's the weekend, if I don't answer, shoot me a text. And they'll shoot a text and we'll escalate it up.
mm,
Just pick up the phone. These guys are running and gals are running it down the interstate. You know, just pick up the phone. They can tell Siri to dial this number and they will. Hey, call this person or whatever phone system they have. And they don't have to pick up the phone to do it. Just simply having those conversations. These drivers enjoy talking about what's going on in their life. You know, the fleet managers do a great job. Mesilla Valley is a great example of that, of communicating with these drivers. They like talking to us. We talk to them on a weekly basis, sometimes more if there's an issue or problem that we're trying to get resolved. But not only that, we know a little bit more about them too. You know, we know, hey, I'm going on vacation next week. I'm not answering your call next week. All right,
mhm.
cool. When you get back, let's talk about how your vacation went. Oh,
Right.
hey, my daughter's graduation is coming up. I'm gonna be out of pocket. Okay. Oh, my wife's pregnant. You're learning more about the person instead
Mm,
of a driver number and how many miles they got in that week. Drivers feel way more appreciated when you get to know them and understand who they are instead of being a driver number 6,000 miles away or 5,000 miles away. They appreciate that.
absolutely. And as we wrap up, Merle, if you could just, I guess, is there anything that you would just love to leave, maybe the supporters, the listeners, the audience right now?
I tell you, for drivers out there, if you're going to jump on board with a new company, give them 90 days. Give it 90 days to feel it out. You're coming to a new organization. The last organization may have done it one way or another, and it may have been right or maybe not at all. I hear stories about drivers coming from one company and they absolutely hate it, couldn't get nobody on the phone, whatever the case is. Get to know the people in the organization you're going to. Get to know who your fleet manager is. Get to know who your dispatcher is, or your HR personnel. Get to know them. Be courteous and polite, because they will be courteous and reply back to you. And once you understand how to navigate and the operational part, as a driver, do your part so you stand out. Show up to your loads on time, deliver on time, be available when you're asked to get back out on the road. And the biggest thing I could tell a driver is, don't extend your resets from a 10-hour, make it turn it into a 34, 48, or 56 hour, because you're not going to make any money. Be available, because if you stand out, your colleagues, as far as fleet managers and other people, will recognize you and say, that's the person to go to. I need that driver to take care of me this week, because he's taken care of me before. And you call them up, say, hey, I'm in a bind. I know this is going on. Can you get this load here? And if you say it sincerely enough instead of demanding, that driver's like, yeah, boss, hey, I got this. I'll get this taken care of. Don't worry about it. Where you want it, I'll get it there. And they know that's the go-to person. And you'll find out over a short period of time that one particular driver who's being kind, courteous, and looking after the company and being respectful ends up getting all the great loads anyways, instead of the guy that's complaining, complaining, complaining. All right, here's a load, make you happy. Here's a load, make you happy. Get to know the people you're working with, but at least give them a 90-day shot. You'll find out real quick that, hey, this is absolutely where I need to be. And if I quit in a week or 2 weeks, you might have regretted that quitting.
Love that. Today's episode with Merle Gerhardt reminded us of something bigger. Legacy isn't what you leave, it's actually what you live, right? So we've unpacked why retention is the heartbeat of growth, how data tells the story leaders often miss, and what happens when companies finally listen to their drivers. So, Merle, thank you for bringing your perspective and experiences, conversations like this that help us decode the future of trucking, one decision at a time. And for our listeners, keep building with impact, keep questioning the short term hacks, and keep designing systems that last. Again, this is Legacy Decoded. Until next time, continue to build boldly. Thank you, Merle. I appreciate you just having this conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today.